Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Today, we're talking about Vincent van Gogh, one of the most famous artists who ever lived. His paintings now sell for hundreds of millions of dollars, but here's the tragic part. During his entire lifetime, he only sold one painting. Van Gogh lived in poverty, struggled with severe mental illness, and died thinking he was a complete failure. This is the heartbreaking story of a genius who never got to see his own success. Let's get into it. Vincent van Gogh was born on March 30th, 1853, in the Netherlands. From the very beginning, his life seemed cursed. Exactly 1 year before he was born, his mother gave birth to another son, also named Vincent, who was stillborn. Vincent grew up passing his dead brother's grave with his own name on it every time he went to church. Some historians think this contributed to his lifelong feelings of inadequacy and the sense that he was a replacement child. Young Vincent didn't fit in anywhere. He was quiet, serious, and awkward. He bounced from job to job, failing at everything. He worked at his uncle's art dealership but was fired for being too honest, telling customers their art was worthless and sinful if he didn't like it. He tried to become a teacher that failed. He wanted to be a preacher like his father, a path he felt was his true calling. But he failed the theology entrance exams twice. He then worked as a missionary with desperately poor coal miners in Belgium, giving away all his possessions and living in squalor just like them. But the church fired him for being too extreme, for taking his religious zeal too seriously. By his late 20s, Vincent had failed at literally everything he'd tried. He was broke, depressed, and had no direction. That's when he decided to become an artist, not because he thought he was a prodigy, but because he had absolutely nothing else left. Van Gogh started painting seriously around 1880, when he was 27. He was completely self-taught, learning by copying prints and studying drawing manuals. His early work was dark, gloomy, and depicted the harsh lives of peasants. It was powerful, but nobody wanted to buy it. The only person who believed in Vincent was his younger brother, Theo. Theo was an art dealer in Paris, and he was Vincent's rock. He sent Vincent money every single month to survive, buying his art supplies and paying for his rent. Without Theo, Vincent would have starved to death. His dedication was unwavering. Vincent lived in extreme poverty, often making a choice between food and art supplies. He'd frequently go without food just to buy a new tube of paint. In countless letters to Theo, he'd write things like, "I'm living on bread and coffee," or "I haven't eaten a proper meal in days." His art was everything. Vincent's personal life was just as disastrous. He fell in love multiple times, but was rejected every single time, often in humiliating ways. He was desperately lonely, but people found him intense, strange, and off-putting. His passion was often mistaken for madness. In 1886, Vincent moved to Paris to live with Theo. There, he discovered Impressionism and the vibrant art scene. His style exploded with color. His palette became brighter. His brushstrokes more expressive. This is when he started developing the bold, swirling style we recognize today. But still, nobody wanted his work. Other artists and art dealers just laughed at him. Critics completely ignored him. In the eyes of the world, he was a total failure. In 1888, hoping to create an artist community, Vincent moved to Arles in the sunny south of France. He invited the artist Paul Gauguin to live and paint with him in his famous yellow house. Vincent was so excited finally, a friend and an artistic companion. He decorated the house with his sunflower paintings to welcome him. But the dream quickly soured. Within 2 months, their clashing personalities led to constant, explosive arguments. Gauguin was arrogant and dominant, while Vincent was sensitive and volatile. On December 23, 1888, after a particularly bad argument where Gauguin threatened to leave, Vincent had a complete psychotic breakdown. What happened next is infamous. He took a razor and sliced off a portion of his own left ear. Then, in a state of delusion, he wrapped the severed piece in newspaper, walked to a local brothel, and gave it to a woman there, telling her to keep this object carefully. He stumbled home and collapsed. The police found him the next morning, bleeding and unconscious. Gauguin immediately left Arles and never spoke to Vincent again. This gruesome incident became the thing he is most famous for, which is tragic because it was the lowest point of his life, a moment of profound mental anguish. Vincent's mental health deteriorated rapidly. The people of Arles, now terrified of him, signed a petition to have him locked up. In May 1889, he voluntarily admitted himself to the asylum in Saint-Trémy province. And here's the incredible, almost unbelievable part. While suffering from severe mental illness, barely able to function, and confined to an institution, Vincent created some of the most famous and beloved paintings in history. The Starry Night was painted from his barred asylum window during this period. He painted cypresses, olive groves, and portraits. He was astonishingly prolific, creating over 150 works in just 1 year. But in the art world, he was still a complete unknown. In early 1890, his brother Theo finally managed to sell one of Vincent's paintings, The Red Vineyard, for 400 francs, about $1,000 today. It was the only painting Vincent ever sold in his entire life, just one, out of over 1,000 artworks he created. The weight of it all became too much. Vincent was in constant anguish about being a financial burden on Theo, who was now married with a baby and had his own health problems. In letters, Vincent wrote about feeling like a failure who would never amount to anything. On July 27, 1890, Vincent walked into a wheat field, a scene he had painted many times with a revolver, and shot himself in the chest. He didn't die immediately. He stumbled back to his room, still conscious. Theo rushed to his side from Paris. For 2 days, the brothers stayed together. Vincent's last words were reportedly, "The sadness will last forever." He died in Theo's arms on July 29, 1890. He was just 37 years old. At his funeral, there were barely any people. Vincent died believing he was a complete failure who had wasted his life on art nobody wanted. And here's the final, most heartbreaking part of the story. Theo, who had supported his brother unconditionally, was so devastated by Vincent's death that his own health collapsed completely. 6 months later, in January 1891, Theo died at age 33. The two brothers who supported each other through everything were reunited in death. Today, they're buried side by side in matching graves in Alvers-sur-Oise, France. Within a year of Vincent's death, his work started getting attention. Theo's widow, Johanna, dedicated her life to promoting Vincent's art and publishing his letters. She was the one who ensured his genius was not forgotten. Within a decade, Van Gogh was being recognized as a visionary. Within 20 years, he was considered one of the greatest artists who ever lived. Today, Van Gogh's paintings sell for over $100 million each. Museums around the world consider it an honor to own a Van Gogh. There's an entire museum in Amsterdam dedicated to his work that gets millions of visitors every year. He created about 2,100 artworks in just over a decade, a pace that is almost superhuman. He revolutionized art with his bold colors and raw emotional intensity, influencing nearly every artistic movement that came after him. He is one of the most beloved artists in all of history. But he never knew any of this. He died alone in pain, thinking he was worthless. And that's the tragic life of Vincent van Gogh, a man who created beauty that would inspire millions but never experienced success himself. A genius who struggled with mental illness, poverty, and rejection, who gave everything to his art but received almost nothing in return. Vincent's story reminds us that success isn't always visible in the moment, and that the things we create might outlive us in ways we can't possibly imagine. It is also a heartbreaking reminder of how devastating it is when brilliant people as talents go unrecognized in their own time. What do you think? Does Van Gogh's tragic story make his art more meaningful, or is it just unbearably sad? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If this video moved you, please hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into history's most fascinating stories. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.